Today we're going to be talking about operational amplifiers. This one here is an inverting amplifier, and we have here a voltage source. Vn is 1 volt. We have R1 is 5k ohms. We have R2 20k ohms, and we want to find Vout. Two simple rules to follow when trying to tackle a problem such as this. One, both inputs have the same voltage. That means these two inputs here, they're going to have the same voltage. Number two, at these two inputs, there's no current. There's no current running into these or out. First, I'm going to show you the easier way to do it for this type of amplifier. Vout is just equal to negative Vin times R2 over R1. So we have negative 1 volt times 20k over 5k, and that's going to give us negative 4 volts. Now let's do that again, and this time let's try to figure out what the current running through these two resistors are. Now remember, because there's no current running through here, the current is flowing up and around to the other side, so the current's going to be the same across R1 and R2. So if we look at Ohm's law, where voltage is equal to current times resistance, we can find current if we do voltage over resistance. So we have our voltage is 1 volt minus 0 volts, here is 0 volts, over 5k ohms. And that's going to give us 0.2 milliamps. So we have 0.2 milliamps running through R1 and R2. Now we have our current. Now we can find our output voltage. VO is going to be equal to I, which is 0.2 milliamps, which is 10 to the negative 3 amps, times the resistance, 20,000 ohms, and that gives us 4 volts. But what about the negative sign? Well, because it's 0 volts here, in order to have a current running, this value needs to be less than 0. So remember to stick your negative sign in there. But these two ways should give you enough to be able to check your work, make sure you have everything squared away. Okay, let's do one more. This one looks a little bit more complicated, but it'll be fast. Let's start off by trying to find the voltage here at the inputs. Here we have a voltage divider setup, and in order to find the voltage here, what we're going to need is this formula. V is equal to Vin times R2 over R1 plus R2. And this is R1, and we'll call this R2. So we have 2 volts times 10k ohm over 5k plus 10k. That's going to give us about 1.33 volts. And remember, the voltage has to be the same at both of these inputs. So the voltage is going to be 1.33 volts here and 1.33 volts here. Okay, we have that. Now let's try to find our current. Now remember also, there's no current flowing through these. So the current is going to be flowing this way and this way, and the current is going to be the same through both resistors. So I is equal to 1.33 volts over 1k ohm. We're trying to find current through this resistor, and that's going to give us 1.33 milliamps. So we have 1.33 milliamps running through here and through there. Now let's try to find our Vout. Going back to Ohm's law, I is equal to voltage over resistance. Now we have I, our current. Let's try to find V, our Vout. So our current is 1.33 times 10 to the negative 3 amps equals VO, and we have to account for our 1.33 volts at the input and divide that by 3k ohms, this resistor. And if we rearrange, Vout is going to be equal to 1.33 times 10 negative 3 amps times 3,000 ohms plus 1.33 volts. And that gives us about 5.23 volts as our output. And there you go. That was pretty quick, not too painful. I hope you got something out of this. Thanks for watching.